So this is astonishing that they're actually talking about this openly. We've been warning about this forever, that they are using these Walmarts, these closed Walmarts, for internment camps, and will be in the future when martial law is declared, that these will be the internment camps. Well, now, despite all of the mockery from the leftists over all these years we've been warning about this, they're finally coming out and admitting that they are holding people in these Walmarts. And although these people have been held captive in these Walmarts for quite a while, they're just now talking about it. You can see this article came out 53 minutes ago, because they're trying to twist it, how they always do, to fit their narrative. So they're saying, oh, well, it's Donald Trump's fault that there are all of these children being held in these Walmart internment camps. So now they can kind of ease us into, right? Ease us into accepting that we do have internment camps on American soil. These Walmarts are being used for this, for these FEMA camps and refugee camps and concentration camps and all of that. So at the same time, they can get us numb to that and calloused and accepting that this is part of our reality now. They can also use it to try and turn people against the United States and the President of the United States. So that's what's happening. So the disclosure has happened. This is a fact now. We were crazy when we were saying it last year, but now the mainstream's saying it, that the Washington Post is saying it, or New York Times is saying it. Oh, well, it must be true. It's the gospel then. When we were saying it, we were crazy people, but now the Washington Post is. So here we go. Let's look at the article and see what they're saying about why these Walmarts are actually perfect. They were created for this, that they have all of the facilities to provide food, supplies, security cameras everywhere, little outdoor garden center, fenced, barbed wire topped, sort of, prison yard areas. They were created for this. So let's see what this article says. For more than a year, the old Walmart along the Mexican border here has been a mystery to those driving by on the highway. In place of the Supercenter's trademark logo hangs a curious sign, Casa Padre. And that's creepy too. That's creepy. Casa Padre, that means father's house. They did the same exact thing back when FDR set up the concentration camps in America, rounded up the Japanese Americans. In 1942, here it is, it's Executive Order 9066. Look it up. We've done this before. But when the tyrannical leftist FDR did it during World War II, it wasn't even what they would say illegal immigrants. These weren't people who committed any crimes. These were Japanese Americans. These were American citizens that they rounded up just because they were Japanese, and we had been attacked at Pearl Harbor. 10 weeks after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signs Executive Order 9066, authorizing the removal of any or all people from military areas as deemed necessary or desirable. The military in turn defined the entire West Coast, home to the majority of Americans of Japanese ancestry or citizenship, as a military area. By June, more than 110,000 Japanese Americans were relocated to remote internment camps built by the U.S. military in scattered locations around the country. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent here, but the point of this was that when FDR did it, he would also visit the camps, and the Japanese would call him Papa and things like that, and they would put signs up over some of the internment camps, the same thing, Papa's house. Like, they were thanking him for providing for them and their families and stuff, some creepy stuff. And then we have this whole group of religious people who call the Pope Father, that he's the Holy Father, even though the Bible flat out says verbatim, call no man Holy Father. And yet they call all of their priests, even if it's like somebody just out of seminary who's like 24 years old, you're supposed to call them father. This is all just conditioning for this rising antichrist system that is coming. So we're being taught to call our oppressors, to call these people in the cabal father, that they are somehow, you get it. It's like a dystopian Big Brother 1984 nightmare. And so we're supposed to call these people father. So anyway, that in itself, Casa Padre, father's house, for a concentration camp, an internment camp, That's super creepy by itself, but not nearly as creepy as coming to the realization that Walmarts really are set up as concentration camps, internment camps. This is real. This is not a theory anymore. I'm showing you the article right in front of your face. It says, but behind the sliding doors is a bustling city unto itself, equipped with classrooms, recreation centers, and medical examination rooms. Casa Padre now houses more than 1,400 immigrant boys. Inside, in what used to be a McDonald's, shelter employees served scores of mostly teenage boys chicken, vegetables, and plastic fruit cups. In the former loading docks, children watched animated movies dubbed in Spanish. Where once there was a garage, 6 young people played basketball. Then it talks about the program that actually organizes all of this, and it says the organization now houses 5,129 immigrant children in 3 states, approaching half the approximately 11,200 currently in federal custody. And then it goes on to talk about that their representatives say we're not a detention center. What we operate are shelters that take care of kids. It's a big, big difference. And, you know, you can see, in all fairness, you can see these are set up as shelters. But that doesn't change the fact that we are on this road and these facilities are designed and already being used. They say they're not detention centers, but you know, I wonder how many of these people can leave willingly. If you go back and watch the video I did on the homeless shelters, quote unquote shelters, where people are being taken to these facilities on the outskirts of town, they're rounding up homeless literally in handcuffs, and they're not allowed to leave the facilities. So, you know, that's some sketchy stuff. I discuss that more in depth and show several of the news clips and the people's cell phone clips of this going on. In this video here that I put up about 8-9 months ago, 200,000 missing people, FEMA camps, martial law, Hitler Youth, censorship, book burnings, that one. So you can look that up if you want to see some more information on that. And it goes on to say that most of the boys who pass through this facility only stay about 49 days as they're sort of processed through processing centers. Which again, if you've watched any of my videos about how people have had all these prophetic dreams and visions, including myself, I posted it just a couple videos back about these processing centers that Christians were rounded up into after the martial law breaks out, after the war and the earthquakes start and all of that. It's amazing to see that these facilities already exist. So anyway, the article goes on. They line up in hallways featuring murals of U.S. presidents and inspirational quotes. The bedrooms at Casa Padre are doorless, with walls reaching only halfway to the 20-foot high industrial ceiling that serves as a constant reminder of the building's past. Yellow lines on the ground mark the area boys must line up. In the cafeteria, a mural tells kids to speak quietly, ask before getting up, and not to share food. There are so many children that they attend school in 2 shifts, one in the morning, the other in the afternoon. They sit in small, numbered classrooms with yellow walls covered in posters of planets. On Wednesday, through tiny windows, they waved to the reporters outside. They spend 2 hours outside each day, including 1 hour of physical exercise and 1 hour of free time, which many kids spend playing on dusty soccer fields. The boys are allowed to make 2 phone calls a week. Southwest key officials said it sometimes takes days or weeks for children to reach their parents. So no doubt all of this, you know, lining up on the lines and having the outside fenced area to get a couple hours of exercise and being put through these school systems. I mean, you got to admit, it sounds a little bit like the communist re-education camps and the Nazi concentration camps and stuff. Again, to be fair, this is certainly not a Nazi concentration camp where they're being starved or whatever, but also to be fair for them to say that we're not a detention center, that's not accurate either. They are being detained, and we've been warning for years, this isn't going to be just for illegal immigrants. as these things unfold and we start to see the progression of events, the earthquakes and the natural disasters increase, and the more refugees, American refugees, and then the war breaks out, and who knows what'll happen. People have seen all sorts of things, that people theorize that, Donald Trump may be assassinated like JFK was, and there'll be riots break out and civil war and unrest and martial law and that kind of thing. Who knows? There's a thousand different scenarios that this could turn really ugly really fast. And, whether it's a civil war and martial law, or whether it's natural disasters, leaving people homeless as refugees, like we're seeing in Hawaii right now as I'm making this video, or whether it's an actual invasion, as many people have seen. All they have to do is move in the cots and beds. A lot of them have exam rooms from the eyeglass centers and stuff that were in them. All of them have the kiosks and the injections and the pharmacies right there on site. None of this is by accident. Here's a little clip from a video I put up 8 or 9 months ago talking about how Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, during World War II, also worked with the concentration camps in the United States of America. And he was heavily involved in the last round of concentration camps on American soil. And that's why he was chosen to set up this network, this distribution network that reaches into every tiny town in America.
There's something weird going on with Walmart. Are we now seeing the true form of one of the world's largest companies? Is Walmart an entity of the government, operating in the private sector, meant to usher in martial law? Is its purpose found even in its name? Fact number 1. To understand the truth about Walmart, you first need a history lesson. The founder, Sam Walton, is long deceased, but his legacy is very much alive. What is he remembered for? Well, you may not know that Sam Walton was a part of the U.S. intelligence agency during World War II and a security chief over internment camps located inside of the United States. These camps held hundreds of thousands of whites of German and Italian descent and Asians of Japanese descent. They were held there after FDR violated their constitutional rights. Sam Walton oversaw these prisoners of war. The Walmart U.S. government connection is not new, you see. It goes way, way back. From 2001 through 2016, Walmart has received an estimated $50 to $100 billion in secret subsidies granted by the U.S. government. There are entire websites dedicated to following Walmart's grants, tax breaks, and earmarks. These websites unanimously agree that Walmart has received tens of billions of dollars in kickbacks over the years. Why are they getting so much money? Is it merely to keep their prices low? Or is it for other expenditures?
And we know, just look, all of the Walmarts are set up close to interstates, close to railroad tracks. And now, as this thing is moving forward, we're starting to see the disaster response team. They also have, this is Walmart's website, so this is not some conspiracy. This is nobody's second opinion. This is what they put out about themselves. They say there are 6 disaster distribution centers strategically located across the country and stocked to provide rapid response to communities in the event of a natural disaster. Each distribution center is more than 1 million square feet in size, and they distribute to 90 to 100 stores each. So it's not that this hasn't occurred to them.
YouTube community, I'd like to show you this. I found that it has a license plate for Arkansas, and as you can see, this is a Walmart disaster response team. This pretty much confirms that this is going to be a FEMA camp and martial law and all that.
Hello, I make this video not a happy man. I'm at the neighborhood Walmart in San Jose, California. And this is what it has become. I did not want to believe it, but it's happening. Anyone who knows anything about jail or anything about that knows what this is. That is a holding area.
This is actually where they're hearing these booms. Actually, this particular one is, and this one as well. You see that both of these have these reservoirs, these little sunken reservoirs behind the Walmart parking lot. This is Wisconsin, and I've got some of Florida and Arkansas and Louisiana and different places all over the United States. And it turns out that every Walmart has one of these little usually dried up, sometimes they have water, but every one of them has one of these. And I'm going to show you a close-up here. Okay, now if you notice, there is towards the parking lot, going towards Walmart, there are drainage openings, you might say. That's what you would think they would be, right? Culverts or openings that go in the direction of Walmart. Now that's interesting, and they're all this way, because if it was an outlet for flooding or something, then the drainages would be going away from Walmart towards the city sewer or lines or something. But the openings come from Walmart and into these big reservoirs. And invariably, I've seen almost all of them start where the shipping area is, where they pull the trucks up in the back, where they do their unloading with their distribution centers. And right where the trucks pull in, there is an opening and some sort, as if there's something going on. I mean, can you imagine in every one of these Walmarts, what is it that's in there that they would need to drain, right? Because we're not draining the streets. That the city handles that, drainage in the streets and, in case of flooding and so forth. And it's certainly not the sewer. That's not the open sewer. It's a drainage for something. And it's draining, you see the two drainage holes, openings, apertures, right there, as they're always toward the parking lot, towards Walmart. And so what is it that Walmart needs to drain? Because you see Walmarts do this, but I don't see this happening with Kmart's, or I don't see Home Depot's doing this. So what is it that Walmart needs with these large reservoirs in their backyards?
We have created, of all the Jade Helm Walmart closing episodes across the country, strangely enough, we have found that all the closed Walmarts are very close to railway lines. Access points such as this at Pico Rivera Walmart, which is only 1/10 of a mile from the closed down store.
Here's just one of those videos that we put up last year. Well, I guess it's about 8 or 9 months ago, talking about these Walmart stores that they were closing down and that they were turning into these detention centers. And of course, all the mainstreamers were like, oh, that's insane. You guys have gone over the top. And look, it even got marked unsuitable, because, oh, that couldn't be possible, even though it's 100% truth. And I just showed you the article where now the mainstream is saying not only are these being used for detention centers, but they're secretive. In the article, they actually used the term secretive. And that's really the most heartbreaking part of this truth movement, is it just to face, all the scoffers and mockers and stuff every day is one thing. I can handle that. But to face that, knowing that we're telling the truth, knowing that these very same people who, attack us and mock and scoff are the very same people we're doing this for, that we're trying to save, that we're trying to wake up, that we're trying to lead to the truth. And that's the heartbreaking part. But the point is that we were saying this 8 or 9 months ago, and long before that, for years we've been warning about this. And it was, oh, those tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists. But now, as always, it's in the mainstream news saying, yes, absolutely, they are using the closed down Walmarts for FEMA camps. And I guess a lot of people will say, well, what does that have to do with us? But at the same time I was putting up these videos warning about this, we were warning about this, that these volcanic eruptions were starting to pick up, that this celestial event that's coming, the event that is coming, is causing these earth changes, and these volcanoes are waking up. So at the same time, we were covering all of the earthquakes. Now, since Hawaii is erupting, it's big news to Americans. They didn't seem to want to pay attention, you know, when it was Mount Agung first, or Vanuatu. This was at the same time, September, October, you know, 8 or 9 months ago, when all of everything started. So, but now it's Hawaii. So now people are starting to pay attention. And it's, you know, also in these same videos, I would discuss what was going on with Yellowstone, the earthquake swarms that have been happening. So if you think that these earthquake swarms that are happening around Yellowstone and out in Washington State and Oregon and all of this have just started, so we've got a lot of time. No, it already started. The warning signs have been here. So anyway, the point is, now that some of the cataclysms are coming closer to home, to America, people are starting to pay attention to this. And that's why I think it's an opportune time to bring up these FEMA camps again, these barges, these Walmarts, all of this network that has been built around us, because people think that it can't happen to them. But after the hurricanes came through, and we talk about the weather wars and all of that, yes, absolutely, I believe most of this is natural, because this cosmic event is happening. This celestial event is happening. This end of the age is happening. But on top of the natural, there are weather wars going on, and they can intensify these systems, and they can use them as acts of war against countries. But anyway, when we saw all of the hurricanes and everything come through, then all of a sudden these mystery barges, these FEMA barges, showed up off the coasts for refugees, because they needed housing. They needed to evacuate. People lost their homes, and they were refugees in America. And so they put these barges off the coast. And in this video, I show inside the barges. And there's no doubt they look exactly like mobile prisons. And they didn't just build these the day of the hurricane, right? These were built years and years and years before. And again, the quote unquote conspiracy theorists were saying, hey, what is this thing? I see them building these. They're sitting out offshore, you know, these Google ships. What are these? And then boom, as soon as we saw a cataclysm, then here they come. And they're docking off the coasts. Now, most of them went to Puerto Rico and stuff. I think only 2 of them went to Texas. But anyway, I show all the pictures and stuff of these. This is a real thing. This is really happening. And there are some seriously sinister stories going on surrounding these ships, and people not coming back, and the homeless people and all of that. Homeless people disappearing. Again, I've done videos on that right here. Hurricane Harvey, Irma, FEMA, actual footage of homeless being taken and sorted out into separate camps. I show the actual footage of the authorities invoking, I think it was called the Baker Act, to take homeless people against their will. And they went, the authorities, the cops and stuff, went out with psychologists in tow to sign a paper right there on the spot. If the people they deemed homeless, or the people who wouldn't comply with the authorities, they would have a psychologist sign a paper right there to take them against their will. So again, all of this is right. The evidence is right in front of our faces. I showed it right there. The authorities actually putting them in handcuffs. Innocent American citizens being rounded up. And of course, all these are marked not suitable, but there's no doubt that it's truth. I showed the actual footage of it happening, the actual evidence. But you know, the crux of it is to say that, oh, these people are deemed illegal, so that's why they're in these camps. Well, you know what? Like I mentioned earlier, it's already here. I mean, every time you ever been pulled over by the police, it's like, papers, please. Sorry, that's a terrible, not a German accent at all, but you get my point. That, yeah, it's papers, please. Do you have your license? Do you have your registration? Do you have your proof of insurance? I mean, my son he's like 7 years old. And everything he does, I have to have his birth certificate. I have to have his social security card. As soon as he popped out of the womb, they numbered him. Here's your social security card. At the hospital, It wasn't, we didn't have to go to a government agency. They did it at the hospital. They took his blood, a DNA sample, and sealed it up at the hospital, numbered him, gave him his social security card, his birth certificate, you know, to enter school. Has to have all these documents that he's had medical exams and all of this kind of stuff. So, you know, when we look back at those old German films and Papers, Please, where they were stopping people and asking them for your papers, hey, if you've ever been pulled over for a speeding ticket, you have to have a stack, you know, of papers you carry with you everywhere you go. And if you think this can't happen to you, that you or me, or we're somehow immune because we live in America or something, that's ridiculous. Right here, here's another video. Martial law, Hurricane Irma, FEMA, Miami orders roundup, gun and ammo confiscation. So not only did they immediately, without any legislation being passed, invoke this Baker Act and start rounding up people against their will, but then on the Virgin Islands, remember, they also, that mayor, he just passed a gun and ammo confiscation. It didn't take legislation. Nobody had to debate it. It didn't have to go through Congress. It was instantaneous. Oh, well, it's an emergency, right? There's a hurricane, there's a disaster, so we can just do it. They just did it. He just passed it. We need to round up the gun and ammo. And we saw the same thing during Hurricane Katrina, right? They didn't have to pass any legislation. Nobody had to vote on anything. Nobody got to vote on anything. They just started going door to door and confiscating people's guns. So if you think that it can't happen, you're in la la land. It's not only can it happen, it has happened. It's already happened. The beta tests have already happened, and they saw they did it, and we're all still here like nothing happened. So they know they can get away with it. And as always, I always bring up all of the prophetic warnings that we've had about this. And here again, this is 8 or 9 months ago, but a lot of these were posted years ago. It's 5 prophetic warning dreams from God about Walmart FEMA camps. And this is 5 different people who don't know each other from all over the world and there are lots of them. I just picked 5 to keep the video short. And they were saying that they were shown that Walmarts were going to be used as detention centers.
And then our family was held by force inside the store, which was like a makeshift prison camp. My husband and I got to stay together to sleep, and my son was in another area close by. I don't know where my daughter was.
And the right side of the parking lot was all homeless people. It was like a tent city outside the Walmart. And it was sad, but it was the new normal. It was like I was used to seeing it, and so it didn't affect me, even though if I would see that now, I think I'd be devastated. So I leaned over the temporary gate, and I looked down, and they were building something. So there were guys working underneath the Walmart, and I thought it was kind of weird, and so I asked one of the guys that were working, I was like, hey, what are you doing? And they said something about an elevator shaft for employees, which I thought was weird because I didn't think there was a downstairs, but what do I know, right? So I thought that was weird, and I left. And when I turned to leave, I was instantly down below. I was down below. I knew that they were building, and they had an underground prison with a huge bathroom.
We were also dressed in prison outfits, solid color, top and bottom, and we were allowed to be outside for like 15 minutes every day. But it wasn't like green grass. It was a slab of concrete with a fence and multiple cameras facing in at us.
And I felt like I kind of had heard the word martial law in my dream. That's kind of what I was getting in the dream, is that martial law had been declared. I then looked over to the left of the Walmart parking lot, and there was a huge red tent set up. It said processing center on it. We were ushered over to the tent, and then inside the tent there was a desk set up with military personnel behind the desk. She goes, look at the roof. And so I looked up, and I actually saw all these military men dressed in army fatigues, and they were lined up from one end of the roof to the other.
See inside the Walmart, and they were taking people to the Walmart And inside the Walmart, there were no aisles. There was nothing in there. It was just a whole bunch of like beds and cots for people to lay down on. So that was his vision and his dream.
It don't make a difference, but I'm just going to tell you what I saw. So I was like in a room, and it was Walmart. It was Walmart. Okay, I know what Walmart looked like. I know there are signs. Everything was in Walmart in a stock room. And a manager, it was a man, came out. He had about maybe 8 to 10 other managers or other department heads in this room. And he looked at them. He said, look, okay, this is the orders I got. You know, once the food and everything leave off these shelves, we done. We can't put no more food on these shelves. And all the managers were looking around each other, you know, like they knew something was coming, or they knew it was coming. But this was like, we finally got the word. Once we are done, or supplies, once we done, it's done.
Watching television together, and this Walmart commercial comes on, and it shows people dancing around in the store. And they had a bunch of beds, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. In fact, there was no shelves in the store at all. They had people sitting on beds, laying in the beds. You know, it looked like a homeless shelter. In the commercial, they were saying that they loved Walmart so much that it was like their home away from home and stuff like that. I don't know why, but I was noticing the floor, and then the floor had blue stripes.
So here it is. Here they are. Go and listen to them, because I just showed you the news article. This is happening right now, or just the bud of it, the beginning of it. It's not in full bloom yet, but it is beginning to happen. They are already converted. And anybody who knows about the new Walmarts, we had a new Walmart built in our area last year or the year before, a couple of years ago now. Anyway, the point is, when they're building these new ones, they don't even bother to make them look like stores anymore. You're not going into Sears or JCPenney's with beautiful floors and everything. No, they just have concrete floors in the Walmart. They don't even put flooring down. You know, they don't have any ceiling in them. They're just warehouse ceilings and just concrete floors. Because they know that it's temporary. They're not even putting any money into it. So that's a big change. You know, when I was coming up to Walmarts, they tried to make them look like department stores, like regular stores, like a Target or a Kmart or anything else. But now they're not even bothering to hide it. It's just big old FEMA camp warehouses with concrete floors. So I'll put links to this article from today and all of the other videos and stuff I discussed. All the links will be below in the description box. Anyway, this is prophecy. Prophecy is being fulfilled right before our eyes. So I hope everybody wakes up and gets close to God, because Jesus Christ is our only hope. He is our Savior. That's the good news. There is a Savior. You're going to need one. I love you guys. God bless you and your families.